Is an overtime problem at a company a fixable thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And find a reason why we're doing overtime. I think that's where the biggest disconnect is. 90% of the people we work with don't have a full understanding of a job by job, like cost analysis and where they may be leaking profits.
It's a problem worth solving. My name is Dominic Rubino. Welcome to the episode. Glad to have you here. Today's guest is Sebastien Nault, and we're talking about overtime. If I don't have your attention yet, your company's not big enough to be listening to the show. If overtime is killing you, Sebastien and I are going to pick this apart. We're going to figure out, how do I identify the cause? How do we pick it apart? And what to do about it? Now, Sebastien runs a 90-man crew. So when his company does have overtime, it has a massive impact really, really fast. So he's the perfect guest to have to talk about this. Now, many of you listening are also laughing because you know that Sebastien is one of the business coaches on our team. That means he's already running his own company successfully. He already understands the strategic planning process. And as a coach on our team, it also means that he has to take part in a ton of coach training and support himself, which he loves to do. And sometimes he leads for us internally. So he's already working with quite a few of you out there. So here you go. You get to listen to your business coach getting interviewed by your other business coach. How's that for a turnaround? So today, Sebastien's going to share a couple things with us. One of them is that overtime isn't just a payroll thing. It's a symptom. It's a symptom. It's a numbers, a systems, and a communication problem that shows up as overtime. So Sebastien and I are going to pick this apart. Also, stay tuned for the end of the episode. I'll give you an update on the Christmas water project. And then I also pulled the 6 key lessons on fixing the overtime problem out of this episode, and I'll talk about them all at the end. It'll be nice and easy to follow. Bullet points. You'll love it. Let's get to the show. I'll see you on the other side. Mr. Sebastien Nault, how are you?
Very good, Dom. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, Coach Sebastien, as we know you.
Thank you.
As well.
Thank you.
Yes.
I like to be addressed by Coach.
Hey, Coach. Sometimes I say that when I forget somebody's name, though.
Oh, okay.
Do you ever do that?
No.
Coach. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
That's a good trick. I should use it.
Yeah, big shooter.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Coach. Yeah. And now everybody knows my trick. If I meet them at a conference or if you meet them at a conference. Yeah. But you are a coach here on the team. Let's get to that. Today, we're going to be talking about overtime and labor efficiency ratios. You've got significant experience in that background, but I don't want to take away your story. So can I open with kind of an abrupt question?
Yes.
Here it comes. I'm going to use my serious voice. Mr. Sebastien Nault, who the heck are you? And how is it that you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing woodshop owners all over the world?
Well, I think people already know me probably from being on your team, Don. So I'm a business coach here with your team. I also run a trades business in the service industry. I'm a contractor with a team of about 90 people. So I have significant experience. I started my company in 2011 from the ground up. So learned a lot along the way to get to where we are now. And I'm still learning. So, but the fun part here is to get to share these learnings with people. And I think that the topic that we're tackling today around labor efficiency is one that I've struggled with a lot over the years, and that I'm still refining my systems around using the various tools that we have in our tool belt here. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah. And I think that you said a whole bunch of cool things there, but one of them is you still continue to work on. Business is constantly tweaking and retweaking. And
absolutely. I find that every time we've been growing at a consistent pace since we started. Heavy growth in the beginning. Now we're at a size where we have a consistent, manageable growth that we've somewhat capped. But at every stage, I find that the systems need to be tweaked a little bit as you add layers of management, more people, more complexity. Right. The tools change a little bit, they evolve. The labor market conditions change. So you get some internal pressures, some external pressures, and you have to find the sweet spot in there.
Yeah. There's so many directions I could go on that. But when, you mentioned you have 90 people on your team. A difference of an hour across all 90 people could eat, I would imagine, profitability on a job or for the day, for the whole company?
Yeah, the way my business is set up, and I mean, it would be, it's every business is different. So we have a percentage that's assigned to labor and our costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, mine is very high in my field. So the percentage that's my main expense is labor. So if labor goes out of whack, I can easily half my profit in a bad year.
Well, now we have everybody's attention. So let's jump to it. So the big question you and I have here today is, I think the title of this is most likely going to be "Overtime is Killing My Profits. Here's how to fix it." But as you and I know, because you and I are students of strategic planning, right? The EOS model, the scaling up model, and in the book Scaling Up, Greg Crabtree talks about tracking your labor efficiency ratio to make sure that we're getting the most out of every dollar, treating our people fairly, but getting the right output from it as well. So let's jump into that a bit. Let's talk about maybe some of your experiences or the things you've seen with our other clients on labor getting out of whack and how I start to figure out that it's something I need to solve.
Yeah. Well, first thing is to know where you should be, right? So I find that it doesn't matter at which level you are in your business, whether you're a startup with you're working in the shop with your guys, or you have 2 shops and 100 guys and foremen and all that stuff. For owners to really drill down and know their numbers, I think there's different levels of sophistication, but I would say that 90% of the people we work with don't have a full understanding of a job by job, cost analysis and where they may be leaking profits. So I think starting there and knowing where the benchmark is important. The tool that we use, and that can be used for every company, is the CP90 report. And that's really interesting because it will take your numbers, your financials, and benchmark them against companies like you in your industry.
Yeah.
And tell you, well, if I have a cabinet shop with this many people located in this region, I should be, my gross profit margin or the one of my competitors aggregated is around this. So if it's 35%, then what's mine? If I'm at 28, I have some grounds to make up. Maybe I'm right.
And and now you have grounds to make up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That benchmarking is so critical. And I've been in the situation, and maybe you have too, Seb, I don't know, but when I'm just so focused on growing, I don't have time to pay attention to what's going on around me. I'm just running, like Sonic the Hedgehog, my head's down. I'm just but you get to a certain point. I get to a certain point in my business where I realize, hey, I have to see what everybody else is doing so I can not compare myself, but I need to know what the expectations are for my trade, my industry. And that's called benchmarking. That's what you're talking about. And that's our Checkpoint 90. We call it CP90 report. You and I just did one. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think knowing where the industry is at is important because as business owners, like you said, you have your head down, but am I doing well? Am I leaving money on the table? Am I not charging enough? Where are my costs compared to am I efficient enough? It's that report gives us a lot of data on that front, and it helps sort of indicate how to set the strategy and what we need to move.
Yeah, there's a lot of meat on that bone, as we say. So just for a sec, I'll explain it to people. So Sebastien and I use the language CP90 because we do these for our clients all the time. It's called Checkpoint 90. And you're not going to find it. You can go Google it. The only place you're going to find it is us. But it's if you're at the place in your business where you think you might need a CFO or a fractional CFO, this report bridges that gap for you because it gives you exactly the same information that a chief financial officer would give you in your business and just lays it all out in writing and says, hey, based on your sales, this is the expectations for your income. Based on your number of people, this is the expectations for profitability, etc. Which takes us back to today's. Hey, do you want something? It's kind of got a funny title. It's called the Profit Pack, and we didn't even name it that. One of our coaches was talking to one of our clients, and I guess he was helping one of his buddies. He's like, hey, you got to have this Profit Pack. And he put together a package of downloads and shared it with him. So now we call it the Profit Pack. But look, it's 5 downloads. One of them's an Excel spreadsheet. The other 4 are PDFs. Here's what's inside the Profit Pack. If you want to just text me and say Profit Pack, we'll send it off. Anyways, the first one's called the Ultimate Get Things Under Control Guide. Fantastic guide. It's going to walk you through all the things that are pulling you off your main focus daily. Then we've got the 1-hour job estimate calculator. That one is crazy. And I'll tell you, you'll know you need that report when you get frustrated at sending your guy to, let's say, Home Depot or Lowe's or somewhere else and he comes back with an energy drink in his hand, and you get mad knowing, I just set that guy on an extra break. Well, you need this one, the 1 hour job estimate calculator. Then we've got the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner, which we do every year. It's our big New Year's resolution planner. So you're going to want that one. And then number 4 is how to calculate my revenue responsibility per hour. This is a crazy number. This is the number that wealthy contractors learned at their kitchen table that you didn't get a chance to learn at yours. So you're going to want to get this one. And then number 5 is, where are my blind spots? It's a construction business reality check. Boom. There you go. 5 documents. They're all going to help you. If you want it, just say Profit Pack. And if you want it, send me a text. My number is 315-903-7853. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that if I think I've got an overtime problem in my company, one of the suggestions you would have as a coach in this industry is to benchmark myself against others.
Well, the first step is to know, like, hey, how am I doing in compared to people in my industry? Most of the time, what I found in my business when I run that report is that, like, I have a bit of grounds to make up. And it's like, okay, well, I got to find where and how.
Yeah. I'm thinking of, my head is flashing for all the times when I finally figure out some number and I'm like, oh, everybody else is doing better than me on that. At least I know where to look, because otherwise I come in every day and I'm just running in a million directions instead of aiming at one and just like focusing on it. That's what we're going to solve this quarter.
Yeah. So the gross profit number is really important. I think for me, that's where I look first, especially with our clients, because that's usually the easiest barometer of success. Like, I have a clear view of what that gross profit is. And then also, like, try to extract what's the labor portion of that. And, if I can separate the labor and the materials and see where my labor is at, and if I can find efficiency there, and that's what we're going to tackle today, how overtime can sneakily affect those labor numbers and efficiency.
It feels like the right thing to do, though, doesn't it? We've got a project, we're behind. Maybe we're behind because of our own internal QC issues, something, So we just want to live up to our promises. So we'll do whatever it takes to get that job done. But so we're not saying don't do overtime. We're just saying that be very careful about why you're doing overtime, and then let's not do overtime in the future.
Yeah. And find a reason why we're doing overtime. I think that's where the biggest disconnect is.
Yeah. Why?
Why is it happening? So, like in what we do, I mean, if we have a strategic plan in place, if we started there, right? Like, we have our CP90, like we have like our documents, like, okay, we have our benchmark. This is where the industry's at. This is where we're at. This is where we have grounds to make up. Now we create those numbers on the strategic plan. We're like, okay, well, this year we want to hit revenue of X. So we got to sell this many X's, right? And then we want this profit per X, and make that visible to our team. That's important, right? If we're the only people that have that goal, and then we just tell people, go do the work, well, they're going to do the work without knowing if they're successful or not, right? It's like, well, I worked a full week and we've done a bunch of boxes, and now I'm going to go home and that's it.
Yeah, I worked. Yeah, I showed up at 8. I left at 5. I did my job.
Now, if I have the opportunity to stay until 6 p.m. and instead of $30 an hour, I can make 45, why not? Doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right. So, and at the end of the day, like, this is just money that went away, and it provides no value, and it's directly off the bottom line.
Yeah.
So if there's a way to avoid it,
we need to avoid it.
Yeah. But there needs to be an understanding of why this needs to be avoided. If it's not communicated, if the strategic plan is not in place and communicated, at least to the management team, if we have a larger shop with foremen, it's important that they know that, like, this is important.
Can we go back into your experience on this? Because it'd be silly of me not to ask you your experience. But do you remember a point in time before you had a strategic plan, before you had discipline around your numbers, before you were, before all of those things, and then somehow you crossed this threshold? What did the team look like before you communicated numbers? And what did the team look like during this new phase? And then what does it look like after? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah, I think before, you sort of find yourself in the dark, a lot of frustration on my part, because your numbers like fluctuate because there's no real clear accountability or clear goal to be met. The transition, I would say there's two things. Like, one, people like to know what success looks like.
Right.
So giving people clear goals around, time and efficiency and production numbers is a real driver to success, because people want to be successful. We have this things like, oh, the workers, they just want to, they're going to complain about the boss and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, people want to know what success looks like. And that allows to also weed out the people that don't want to meet the benchmark.
Right.
So if you have clear accountability around production numbers, what needs to be done, then people are going to try to perform to that level.
Yeah.
And the people that don't, then they might not belong on your team. So that helps identify who belongs and who doesn't. One thing that we need to be cautious about is that it doesn't become just a production game where it's like we keep pushing people to do more for less time, and they feel like you're just trying to.
I was just going to say, this isn't about working harder. This is just making sure that all the systems are working smoothly, so we all do our best every day. Yeah.
And that builds trust, right? If you know that people can perform at a certain level consistently, if they have to do overtime, if things go sideways, then it's like, I know I have a good team. How come they weren't able to meet the target? Then you can go back, and that brings back to another tool that we use, which is the EOJs. If the end of job reports show that hey, we went over on time on this job, but we were okay on material, so okay, what happened? So maybe there is a type of project in our sort of portfolio of types of
veneers or something. Like veneers, we never do good on veneers, or we're always doing Euro and suddenly we're doing face frame and that throws us off our game, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So maybe it's okay, well, either we're not charging enough or we're not very good at it. There's something.
It's just you gotta own up to it, right? We're still working on that one.
Yeah. So that overtime thing is not always the fault of the employees. Sometimes
the
job was misquoted. It's in my industry, that happens a lot. It's the guys come back. It's listen, we're supposed to get this done in 3 days. Look, there's this. That's impossible. All right. Okay. So now.
And then when you have that trust, to your point, when you've got the trust both ways, you believe them because they're telling you technical things about why the job can or can't be done on time. Yeah. And they trust you that you're listening to them because you've already established what's the benchmark for doing X or Y or Z. Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, overtime it's gonna happen. We just got to know why it happens and use it sometimes to cover up our mistakes or just to push through a block. But there's a few. If we're constantly in overtime, there's a problem, right? So,
well, it's a profit leak. Right. Mm-hmm. You and I know you can find and fix your 8 profit leaks. That's something that you and I do all day long with people, but there's 8 leaks and they're just trying to break through. They're trying to pierce the veil, as a lawyer would say, right? They're trying to get into your company and slowly drain away profits or time and add frustration. But we already know what they are. There's only 8 of them. We can go fix those.
Yeah.
It's not a never ending list of things that could go wrong. It all comes down to 8 different things. Yeah. When you're working with cabinet shops, what do you see about when we introduce discipline to them, the discipline of tracking numbers? What's some of the feedback that you get from them right in the beginning when they're new to it?
I had no idea what things cost before. When you start separating the different categories of cost and really getting down to the profit per job, it's there's a lot of incredulity or disbelief. It's wow, okay,
it costs that much. Yeah. You and I were in a meeting together just the other day. It's a pretty large shop. That's an understatement, that it's pretty large.
Yeah.
But they were even saying, wow, we knew our numbers, but we weren't tracking these kind of numbers. The operational numbers, the throughput numbers and things like that. That's new to people. And when they see that, I find it becomes easier for me to make decisions.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's important to start somewhere. I think that's what I love about the tools that we have. They can apply to a cabinet shop with hundreds of people in different locations. And then they drill down, their dashboard is super complex. And it's really interesting to watch them because some of it is just they have a full accounting team that produces these reports. And it's super interesting to drill down to them with these guys and find out with them what's happening at the micro level. But the thing is, even if you're still working in the shop with your guys and that's your size, you can start with a dashboard that has 4 columns, super simple, right?
Yeah.
And start tracking. And the EOJ summary, once you have it, a few jobs, maybe even if you have just 5 to 10 jobs on that EOJ summary, you can start seeing patterns.
Yeah. And you and I have done that with another company that's not in the wood trades. They're in construction, where they're just starting to do their end of job summaries. And what I like is the trends pop up.
Yeah.
For me, looking at numbers in a grid, not my sweet spot. But when I start to see patterns in the numbers, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that graph's not supposed to be going up, or that graph's not supposed to be going down or holding flat. There's always, some number relative to some other numbers always supposed to be doing something.
Yeah.
And when it's not doing that thing, I'm like, oh, Mr. Smarty Pants. Turns out we're losing money when we do this. We should probably do less of that and fix what's causing the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let's be honest. Do you ever get frustrated when you look at, things you used to do in the field and you see other people doing them and you're thinking, oh my, we are wasting so much time. Well, I do it. It's called the wasted efforts. And you and I are really finely tuned to it, like bats in a cave. Like we just see the wasted efforts. But what I want to remind you is those wasted efforts are profit leaks. That's money that we made that we're losing just by slow bleed. So what I've put together for you is 9 simple questions. It's actually a tool that my coaches and I use with our coaching clients. So you might as well grab it. It's a free download. Now, these are special questions. And the reason they're special is because every question is also the answer. Now, you'll see what I mean, but I can tell you this. When you think about wasted efforts in your company, it's kind of hard to know what to fix first, right? Well, after these, just 9 questions, you're going to know for your situation in your company and the way you run it, where you should start. Now, you can start anywhere you want, but the answers kind of float to the surface once you do this assessment. It's a simple logical system, so you can create a baseline for improvements. If you worry about lean operations, like you really want to run a smooth and efficient site, you can save time and energy. And then for those of you who think about continuous improvements, you can always make things better all the time. This is one of the answers for that. And of course, quality. Quality eliminates rework, eliminates go backs, and that is one of the biggest causes of waste and wasted profits and wasted efforts and frustration. You can even hear it in my voice. But we want you to be able to fix those problems right away, but you have to identify where to poke the bear, right? And then just, of course, problem solving. So you can fix the real cause of an issue. You and I would both hate to spend a lot of time or effort chasing the wrong thing when the root cause was something else. If you want it, just send me a text and say, wasted efforts profit leak. And then I'll know what to send you. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. So I've been taking notes while you're talking. And the coaching path that I heard you talk about is the first thing that you would do if you had a company who had a lot of overtime is you said you'd want to benchmark them. And that would be using the checkpoint 90, what we call CP90. And then you'd go back and rely heavily on the strategic plan. I think that was your next point. And then discipline around the numbers, like true discipline around the numbers and having good discussions around what do the numbers mean? Where do they come from? And one of those pieces of report, is that the right way for us to say it? Report pieces is this end of job review and end of job summary. Yeah. Did I get the notes?
Yeah, I would add one thing around the business rhythm and discipline and strategic plan is visibility. This is like, it's a CEO level report, but there needs to be visibility of key components of that report or that strategic plan with the team. So they need to be able to know what success looks like. If it's only us, then we're dealing with lagging indicators all the time, right? Like, so we tell people what to do, and then we get the data back, and we're like, yay, or oh, right? So what we want to avoid that. So we want to say, like, before, like when we have those plans in place, and we say, okay, we want our gross margin to be at 35%. Therefore, that means you guys, like, to do this job, this is the amount of labor we have assigned. So you should be done in this many hours. And
just setting budgets
with hours of overtime, and we need to plan things properly so that it comes in at this cost. So if you have like another level of management, if you have foremen in your shop, they need to know those numbers and they need to be driving that. And I would say that depending on your structure, it's also like important that the foreman not just try to drive it without telling the staff why, but if they say like, hey guys, in order for us to do well, this job needs to be completed by end of day Wednesday, or like, we have this much work to do this week, so let's get it done, let's go. Because people want to be successful, they want to understand. So keeping everybody in the dark on these numbers is not necessarily a good thing. And that's going to lead to people. I mean, if I have a choice to work like 8-hour days at $30 an hour, or work like,
a 9-hour day and get that extra 45, I might take the bump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is it they say that time at work is like a gas? It just expands to fill the space you give it,
Yeah.
right?
And the problem that happens is that it's, like this extra hour happens at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah, good point. So tell
you
me
don't,
more about that, because you've probably seen this even on your cruise. Okay,
yeah,
so
you don't start at 45 an hour when you're fresh and you're, like all gung ho. Like it's at the end of the day when you're tired and you're prone to mistakes and maybe like, you've had a long day and you're
you're
working.
hangry.
Yeah, and you're like, maybe you're working slower, so it's even more of a drag on labor, and it leads to mistake and rework, and and that just adds more hours eventually. So that's something we really want to avoid.
So let me summarize it into one big coaching question for you. In your experience, and you're a trades guy, you see what I see. Is an overtime problem at a company a fixable thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It and you and I, with confidence, we know how to fix it. A lot of times people say, well, you don't understand our situation. Our shop is a little different. You're laughing like I am. For anybody who's watching this on YouTube, you can see Sebastien laughing on iTunes, like as a podcast, you're not going to see that, but this is solvable.
Yeah.
It's solvable. And if I just speak selfishly on behalf of the owners, every time we solve the overtime issue for somebody, that goes back into net profits, and a piece of that net profit, it goes back to you at home. That's the money side of this. But the other side is you're not working 24 hours a day. You get to go home to your family and kiss your wife and hug your kids. Like, this is all yours.
Yeah.
It's a problem worth solving.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, like all of our businesses are unique in a way, and we have unique problems to solve. But at the end of the day, the big picture principles can be adapted to any situation. It's just sometimes it requires a bit more tweaking. It requires taking a tool and adapting it for your particular circumstances. But at the end of the day, it's all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't, as you said in the beginning, you can't run a $2 million business when you're a $4 million business, right? We all have to grow and adapt. I know your numbers are significantly higher than that in your own business, but if we're not growing and changing, then our team isn't growing and changing with us, right? So they can't help us. Well, leave us with a closing thought before we wrap this up, Sebastien. If you had to summarize this whole thing and leave people with these words of hope for their overtime situation and just learning this phrase, labor efficiency ratio, where would you take us?
One phrase: understand your numbers and help your people understand them as well. I think that's where it starts and that's where it ends, really. Because if people have an understanding of the numbers, they have clear goals to work towards, they know what success looks like, and they have accountability. And that you have accountability as well. If the problem is efficiency on your line, or if it's a misquoting, you're not charging enough, then that's the owner's problem. And we're going to take accountability for that as well. But if everybody at all levels understand the numbers, understand what success looks like, and understand that we're looking for efficiency, not just padding hours, then I think that's gonna solve it.
Fantastic. Well, Sebastien, Coach Sebastien, a bunch of our clients are listening to you and they work with you. They're like, he said that in our last meeting.
Yeah.
So,
it's a conversation that we're always trying to figure out cost and make ourselves more efficient, right? So that's the basis of most of the conversations we have in coaching.
Yeah.
And that's where we see the most progress, and we see people turn their businesses around and find freedom. I'm very passionate about, living a life of freedom, and I'm very focused on living a happy and full life myself. So I don't want to be constantly chasing problems and fixing them. I help people do that, and I find fun in that. But in my business, in my day-to-day life, that is very important. So I'll have a lot of conversations around that because I want that to happen for our clients.
And that's why you're a coach on the team. All right, Sebastien. Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate you being here and taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing that with us. We'll talk to you soon.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. Well, Coach Sebastien. That was great. Excellent insight, especially from yourself. I mean, you and I always have great conversations. As a matter of fact, this podcast episode came up because we were talking about a particular account that you and I are working together. Then we talked about your experience as a coach. And I thought, hey, you know who should hear this conversation? Everybody else in the world. So we dug into it here today. I'm very glad we did. A couple of the things that I have in my notes right here is that one of your power phrases was when you said overtime feels like the fix, but it's actually a quiet profit leak. That hit hard. I mean, so hard that I wrote it down and underlined it. And then the other thing you said is your team is going to hit the target if they can see the target. So, what a great reminder for all of us is that we need to track the important numbers in the business, and then we need to share those numbers with our team. And this is, of course, as you and I talked about, where some confusion can leak into the conversation, because you might think, well, I'm not going to share my financials with everybody. That's a separate conversation. We're actually talking about operational numbers, and you don't have to share all of the numbers with everybody, but there are some numbers you need to share with some people. And that's why Sebastien and I were talking, and you, Sebastien, said your team will hit the target if they can see the target. And then staying on the numbers theme, you reminded us that if I don't know my numbers, I'm managing in the dark. Oof. Truer words never said, right? And then a couple of the takeaways that I have here as well in my notes. I wanted to keep these simple and usable and aligned with what we talked about here today. So these are pretty on par, pretty quoted. What you said, benchmark first and then aim, which I thought was really interesting. So don't set a target and then try to get there. You're like, benchmark yourself first and then move towards the target. So if you're listening to this show, if you're watching this show and you don't know what good looks like in your trade and in your company, and you don't know what to fix. So first we have to figure out what does good look like, and then we can aim for it. Second thing, make the numbers visible to the people who drive them. So if your foreman, as an example, or your crew don't know the labor budget and the deadline, overtime just becomes free money and nobody really feels the pain. In economics, we call it aligned incentives, blah, 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 fancy talk. Sebastien did a better job than I just did. We don't want overtime to feel like free money, right? We really want to make sure we stay away from overtime. It cuts directly into the profits, and those profits always come out of the owner's pocket first. And then the third thing is a tool that Sebastien and I and all of our coaches use with our clients is using end of job reviews to find the real cause. You see, overtime is a symptom. We need to go back and find the real cause. Overtime can come from misquotes, the wrong job mix, weak planning, bottlenecks, client communication, client mistakes, or rework. There's a bunch of places it comes from. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, but Dom, Sebastien, you don't understand, rework is different for us. Just get on a call with us. We will go sniff out the original source. Sniffing out that source is where you have to start to make the fix, and it can be solved. We've all done it. Sebastian's done it. I've done it. All of the coaches on our team have done it. We need to avoid overtime wherever we can, because all it's doing is taking the money that you were trying to set aside for your vacation. Right? The end of job report, by the way, and the patterns in the EOJ will tell you where to look. Now, if you really are ready to get to the next level in your company, I'm just going to put it out there. My team and I would love to be your business coach. I don't know if you know that, but we actually form a coaching team on our side to support you on your side. And it works really, really, really well. That's why our clients get results. So if you're interested in that in any way, just text us and say, tell me about coaching. Let's just get straight to the point. Tell me about coaching. Here's my number, 315-903-7853. Now listen, we're donating a lot of water on your behalf, and thank you for doing this. 265 gallons, no, 2,650 gallons of water is going to be donated on your behalf. That's the same as imagine that in ice cream, right? Imagine that in water that is a 7 foot long by 2 foot wide by, I can't remember how tall, fish tank. So a massive fish tank. You think about that much water, and we're not even done yet. By the end of this year, with all the likes and comments that you're leaving, we're going to be able to have a massive impact on these families in need in Nicaragua. And I'm proud to take your likes and comments, turn that into money, donate that to this charity. The charity will then turn that into money and give it to them. It is a full circle, good feeling out in the world. So every time you leave a like or comment, we're helping somebody else, which is pretty nice. Folks, all of this is just killing time until you and I can have a drink together, maybe spend some time, fish together, see each other at a conference or a trade show, or maybe talk on a industry event. Whatever it is, I look forward to that more than you'll ever know. In the meantime, thank you for checking in. Those of you who are being coached with Sebastien, go ahead and give him a hard time the next time you're in a coaching meeting with him. Why not? And for those of you who I haven't spoken to yet, I look forward to meeting you face-to-face one day very soon. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you all soon.